to you now, as we wrap up the conversation. Your rating, of course, is one that has generated a lot of conversation, but should we expect, based on your own projections, can we realistically expect further upgrades?
Yeah, the rating report mentions what we call positive sensitivities. So what needs to be met to trigger a positive rating action. And in the case of Ghana, we have identified 3 positive sensitivities. The first 2 of them are related to public finance and 1 is related to external finance. So let me enter into a little bit of detail into the 3 sensitivities that could potentially lead to either a positive outlook or an upgrade. The first one is a sustained decline in the debt to GDP ratio.
Okay. We
forecast that the debt to GDP ratio will significantly drop from 70%, 72%
to 60.
in 2024 to 60% in 2025, and then stabilize at this level in 2026. So a significant, a continued decline in the debt to GDP ratio path that is underpinned by strong implementation of a credible medium-term fiscal consolidation strategy would be potentially one of the triggers for a positive rating action, either a positive outlook or an upgrade. The second one that is still related to public finance is obviously related to liquidity pressures.
Okay.
So reduced liquidity pressures, so typically a declining interest to revenue ratio that is due potentially to greater confidence in reform implementation and in continued restoration of macroeconomic stability in Ghana would lower debt interest costs and would lower this interest to revenue ratio that is a key rating constraint for Ghana so far. And the third one is related to external finance. We do consider that there is a very positive momentum in the external finance metrics in Ghana. So typically Ghana has shifted to a current account surplus, which is a very significant shift compared with pre-default large sustained current account surpluses. And this shift to current account surplus would, in our forecasts, enable Ghana to increase the level of international reserves up to about 4 months, exactly 3.9 months of current external payments. But this is still below the B median of 4.9 months, let's say 5 months. So a sustained increase, a sustained buildup in international reserves that would comfort the external liquidity of Ghana and that would support Ghana's ability to meet its external debt service payments would potentially trigger a positive rating action.
And if you look at these 3 factors, am I right to suggest that your projections say they are all trending positive, at least in the medium term? Am I right to suggest that?
Well, regarding external finance, we forecast an increase in reserves, but still below and somewhat far below the B median. So that would not, so far, our forecasts would not trigger a positive rating action.
Okay.
So Ghana would need to outperform our forecast to trigger this positive rating action. Then, as regards to a sustained decline in the debt to GDP ratio and a declining liquidity pressures, Well, so far we forecast that the debt to GDP ratio will stabilize at 60% in 2025 and 2026, and the interest to revenue ratio would stabilize at 25-26%. Over the medium to longer term, we forecast that the debt to GDP ratio will gradually decline to about 56% by 2029. But that's a very gradually declining path that would not necessarily trigger a positive rating action.
Okay.